What's up everybody, Griffey here. Fresh or rotten, here are a few movies that got the dreaded green splat on the tomato meter, but did pretty good on the Griffey meter.
It's as if the ship brought back something with it, a life force of some kind.
What are you telling me, that this ship is alive?
I took this one personally. When I watch Event Horizon, I am home. In what universe does The Shining in Space starring Lawrence Fishburne and Sam Neill not do it for people? Event Horizon is about a crew of astronauts sent into deep space to recover a ship thought lost that has reappeared just outside of Neptune. They bring along the ship's creator to help unlock the mystery of the disappearance, only to find the ship has much more to show them. This ship has traveled far beyond our tiny conceptions of the universe and reality. The ship is now alive and bringing hell with it. That's metal, dude. There's no denying it. That's metal as hell. Each crew member faces their own version of hell. A sick child, a fellow soldier you couldn't save, a wife you failed. This device lets the horror sink in deeper than just some space demon. The movie has some rough edges, but this is mostly due to behind-the-scenes carnage. Scheduling issues plagued the film, taking a 10-week edit down to just 4. This led to a disastrous test screening and a bunch of gore being cut out. And while some of it is said to exist, a lot of this footage was actually lost. How do we still have Cooper flying through space on his boots and not the full buffet of flesh mangling? Here I come, motherfucker! That's what everyone remembers from this movie, and that's a tragedy. Thankfully, the Event Horizon still takes us on a dark, action-packed ride that any horror fan will love.
We gotta get inside!
No! The wolves in the skin of sheep, they brought about their own hell. They'll take you with them.
There is not a great history of stellar video game adaptation movies, but I believe Silent Hill is the best video game movie of all time. No offense to any Assassin's Creed stands out there. Silent Hill is the story of an adopted girl who keeps having nightmares about a town called Silent Hill. Desperate to help her daughter, Rose decides to visit the town to seek answers. A car crash leads to one of the scariest detours in road trip history. Rose emerges trapped in an ash-covered ghost town, and when the sirens wail, she discovers the true horror inhabiting this town. This movie has so many terrifying images: burning zombies, hideous bugs, and of course Pyramid Head, which I just love it when the name of the character is just what he is. What do we call this guy? Pyramid Head. Perfect. That's not all either. This movie gives us a room full of insanely hot, if not a bit mangled nurses. Seriously, they covered their faces in gauze and their bodies in skimpy nurse outfits that left this viewer asking too many questions of himself. It's one of those you're like, I'm really scared, but also ready to die. And it's a horrifying place to put an audience member. It might just be a me thing. The movie may have great monsters, but it's the evil humans that are truly the most despicable element of the town. I adore twisted religious horror characters, and the cult in Silent Hill is one of the most despicable. As we learn the backstory of the High Priestess and how she purified her daughter, we see evil can take many forms, some of them just way hotter than others. I am shocked that this movie did not spawn 8 sequels, until I saw the sequel and immediately realized why.
Is it bad tonight?
Oh, bad? That's one way to describe it. Insane seems a little more appropriate.
Why make a movie about one ghost when you can have a baker's dozen? This movie has one of the coolest sets of all time. The Latin-covered glass-walled house becomes a perfect labyrinth for all these incredible spirits to mangle humans. 13 Ghosts is the story of a struggling family reeling from the loss of a mother. They are informed that they've inherited a totally normal mansion that in no way, shape, or form is a giant ghost harvesting machine, and discover that the ghost hunting proprietor relative of this house was not as honest as most ghost hunting proprietor relatives are. We've got a plastic wrapped torso, a shredded face greaser with a bat. The great child and the dire mother are pure nightmare fuel. Do they not have any baby wipes around? Yuck. The hammer, the jackal, the juggernaut, and the hot, angry princess. My therapist is gonna have a lot to unpack this week. The hot ghost, dead person thing is not great. The scene where the lawyer walks backwards and gets chopped in half by the glass doors is one of my favorite in-theater horror experiences of my life, where you had a lot of people gasping and then one dude just going, yeah! And I don't know what was going on in that dude's day, but he needed that in that moment.
There's only one creature in the world that could do that. A killer whale.
Do you want to watch Jaws for the 500th time? Well, I do too. But if you want a slightly different flavor, why not turn to the best Jaws knockoff of them all, Orca? The critics may have power washed this movie off the deck like so much bird poop, but I'm here for revenge. The inciting incident of this film is one of the wildest and most unforgettable moments in animal attack horror I've ever seen. An attempt to capture a valuable orca takes a horrifying turn as the mother orca, choosing freedom, dives into the boat's propellers. If that's not gut-wrenching enough, she's with child. It gets worse. The baby is born from the strung-up mother, and the fishermen spray its lifeless body off the deck back into the sea. From a distance, we see the daddy orca watching and giving the people's eyebrow. When we move to the close-up of his eye taking in the scene, we know it's on. There was a time in my life, this is how I looked at everyone. Lunch lady held the tots, make with the tots, lady. And if she didn't, you hit him with a DX, and it was great. Middle school, we had the best language. Richard Harris is doing work in this film, screaming, "I'll fight you, damn it!" As the fisherman is drawn into the icy battlefield to essentially fistfight an orca, how can you not be entertained? I'm not saying this movie beats Jaws. It definitely beats Jaws 3. But the movie thinks it beats Jaws with a nice shot of an orca crushing a great white shark. I am saying it's a perfectly insane bit of nautical nonsense that deserves better than its 8% Rotten Tomatoes score.
Do you think you would get killed because it's at 8%?
Do I think I'll get killed in the comments? Are there commenters brave enough to tell me that they didn't enjoy Orca? Come on. If you want to put that on you, if you want to wear that scarlet letter on the internet forever, do it. Do it.
281.
I've lost 2 pounds since this morning.
Stephen King adaptations are a wide range from hot garbage to horror classics. This adaptation of a story he wrote under his pseudonym Richard Bachman is one of my personal favorites. Thinner is the story of a morbidly obese, shady lawyer who runs over an old gypsy man's daughter while getting a little road treat. The old man curses the lawyer with a simple word: thinner. Billy's weight loss journey goes from fun to life-threatening as he tries to discover how to break this curse. This movie is hilarious. Horror and comedy are perfect bedmates, and this movie's got the right recipe. Robert John Burke chews every bit of scenery in this movie. His performance is so over the top, you can't help but keep watching him. I mean, Billy at one point has a whole shot in his hand, and we just act like that isn't weird, because in this movie, it isn't. I do feel like this old man should have had a higher lot in life than carnival worker, as we see he can sling these spells on all kinds of white men from town. This guy could clean up and make a better world. Too long of a Starbucks order? Curse. Don't pick up your dog's poop? Curse. Reversing into a parking spot? Curse.
White men from town, is that a quote from?
Yeah.
Okay.
At the end, when we see that the only way to break this curse is with a blood pie, and you have to get someone else to eat your curse, it's one of my favorite moments, right? He's trying to get his wife to eat it. He's trying to get her lover to eat it. This movie goes for it at every turn.
You know, no one's ever brought a demon knight over to the other side before. Well, not in one piece anyway.
Tales from the Crypt is one of my favorite shows of all time, and I was ecstatic when they began making movies. I'm the one guy who loved Bordello of Blood. No clue what its Rotten Tomatoes score was, but I would guess bad. I get why people don't like Bordello of Blood, but don't understand how anyone could dislike Demon Knight. Demon Knight is the story of a drifter who holds a powerful blood-filled artifact being pursued by a demon known as the Collector. The drifter holds up in an old church with a ragtag gang of characters and try to survive the demon onslaught. This movie soars on demon wings thanks to Billy Zane's incredible performance. Ho dunk, po dunk, well then there, mother. That was pretty good. That's a line from the movie, the best line from the movie.
It's gonna be mostly bleeps. So.
The Collector essentially takes a Beetlejuice approach to pulling on the threads of these human characters as their courage begins to fray. He takes many forms, voices, and is always there with a hilarious diatribe between murders. It's one of the most underappreciated performances the genre has ever yielded. The movie never takes itself too seriously, but still manages to find a compelling religious backstory. Watching these characters' sins manifest and threaten all of mankind creates dramatic stakes you don't think would exist in the film as it begins. I mean, who wouldn't risk it all for a demonic hooker? I really gotta talk to my therapist. This film captures the fun and carnage of the Tales from the Crypt series. Wonderfully acted, great kills, glowing green eyes, and blood. What else do you want? When they re-released this in theaters a couple years ago, I went to see it, and it's kind of one of those movies you look around the room and you're like, are these my people? Yeah, I guess they are my people. This is us. We're the defenders of House of a Thousand Corpses. I'll never forget being in the audience of Ozfest, a storm rolling in, waiting for Rob Zombie to take the stage. As the clouds swirled overhead, storm sirens and red lights blared from the stage, and the trailer for House of a Thousand Corpses played. My mind was melted, which was fairly often when I was at Ozfest. House of a Thousand Corpses is the story of a group of young people who pull off the road at Captain Spaulding's, thinking it would make a nice chapter in their roadside attraction book. What follows does become a memorable chapter in the history of horror cinema. This movie is rockabilly madness. It's style over substance at every turn. Every decision attacks the audience like we're strapped onto Dr. Satan's chair. Blaring music, monologues over montage, Sherry Moon Zombie's voice. This movie is more like a heavy metal mixtape, but I think you can see some real beautiful moments of filmmaking, like when the cops are gunned down. It's unconventional, but most of Rob Zombie's choices are in service to making the movie as wild a ride as possible. And RIP to Sid Haig, who played the great Captain Spaulding, who is one of the most iconic horror movie monsters we've ever had. His roadside chicken shack with kind of museum of serial murderers is one of my favorite openings in a horror movie ever. Captain Spaulding always scared us and always made us laugh, and Sid Haig will be missed big time.
This technology has peeled back a layer to reveal another universe.
A film marketed as a Stephen King adaptation, in which King actually sued the movie and won to have his name removed from the film due to it having no resemblance to his story. Rather, it was a screenplay called Cyber God that just hijacks the title for the King bump. That said, I think the story that we did get is an absolute roller coaster of a film that I love. The story of the Lawnmower Man follows a mentally disabled man named Job as he is experimented on by scientists and becomes more than they ever imagined. It's like Flowers for Algernon, but with a chimpanzee being brutally gunned down at the beginning. Job looks like Jeff Daniels from Dumb and Dumber, dressed in Chucky overalls. What most people remember about this film, though, is the CGI. While shockingly bad by today's standards, this was pretty novel when it came out. It looks like this old Saturday morning cartoon I used to watch called Reboot, but way worse. In the 90s, every science fiction movie imagined that we were going to get to a world where we all just made love via machines and the internet. Whatever happened to that dream? Why do I just have TikTok and X? Where's the cool stuff? It's unfair. I still find this movie charming despite all of its flaws. Like Job says in his Tron suit and gyro ball, before killing his lover in virtual wrestling, in here we can be anything we want to be. And I just want to be a guy who becomes pure energy and floats around all of the insanity of this film. If you think The Lawnmower Man is bad, turn on Lawnmower Man 2 Beyond Cyberspace and realize the flaw of your ways. I can't get enough of 70s animal attack movies. Again, therapy will be very fun this week. The 70s appeared at this odd point in time where we knew we were destroying the planet and paused to wonder if we should stop. We all said absolutely not, and thus all of the animals got ticked off and decided to murder us. Prophecy is the battle between a paper company and a local Native American tribe. An EPA agent arrives and tries to solve this conflict only to realize it is indeed Mother Nature who is the culprit in the form of a gigantic mutated bear. You're off to a great start in an animal attack film when it begins with a chainsaw versus axe duel. Watching two men battle to the death for the life of one tree sounds dumb, but is oddly inspiring to me. Maybe if I had the bravery of these two men, Taco Bell would still have the double-decker tacos. From the time I saw Shaq and Elijah Wan square up on that court, I didn't realize love and obesity were in my future.
The double-decker taco, just 79 cents.
How dare you, Taco Bell? By the way, you have like 5 ingredients. Why would you take things away from us? While we learn that all the animals in the area are overgrown and vicious, it is the bears that make this movie a must-watch. Watching a massive rubber suit mutant bear smack a boy in a sleeping bag into a rock, and then seeing that boy explode in a cloud of feathers made my heart soar. I showed that to my kid, and we must have gone back and watched that 20 times in a row like it was a TikTok, and died laughing. As if that wasn't enough, we eventually reveal a hideous mutant bear cub wailing in a sound that will haunt you forever. The best animal attack movies need a compelling human story to really achieve greatness. Prophecy crushes on both fronts. I don't know why this movie wasn't a bigger hit, but I am glad those evil paper men created this monster of a movie.
Step back, or pull the trigger.
I didn't want to kill you, but now you leave me no choice.
Arnold versus the devil. That's it. That's the pitch. End of Days is the story of the church trying to kill the would-be mother of the Antichrist before Satan can get lucky with her before the ball drops on the millennium. Arnold plays a strung-out detective who finds himself mixed up in the battle for the end times. And thank God he still goes to the gym hungover. My favorite element of End of Days is definitely Gabriel Byrne's turn as the devil. The devil could take over anybody, even that of a jacked Austrian detective, but no. He chooses an investment banker in the bathroom. The scene where the banker is taken over and walks out to the dinner all casual, kisses and gropes his buddy's lady, and walks out as the building explodes is just metal. That's as metal as the devil's ever been. If you're going to be a Satanist in a movie, this is who you worship. I've always loved Arnold's commitment to the bit in these kinds of movies. The Arnold faces and screams are just cinematic catnip I never get tired of. However, I actually think Arnold delivers one of his finer performances in the moments where he is tempted by getting his wife back. Is it odd that his wife was killed by a tactical team in their apartment? Yes. Does Arnold play the moment beautifully? Also yes. I'm just not going to hate watching Arnold battle the devil, even a giant scrotal devil. Arnold is the action figure icon of my generation, and it was nice to see him finally meet a worthy opponent.
Trolls! Trolls! Save the kids! Trolls!
Ernest Scared Stupid rules. It is a perfect family horror comedy. Ernest Scared Stupid is the tale of a monstrous troll who transforms children into wooden dolls in an attempt to kick off the troll-apocalypse. He is stopped by Ernest's ancestors, but curses the Worrell family line to become dumber and dumber until one of them will free the troll. Enter Ernest. I have probably watched this movie every Halloween since it came out, and I never get tired of it. Jim Varney was a comic genius. Well, not all of his characters were great, but Ernest most definitely is. Between camping, saving Christmas, and even going to jail, I think Ernest Scared Stupid is the best vehicle he ever got. Also, Trantor is actually scary. Watching the scenes of him stalking the children are really dark horror movie stuff. When the movie gets too intense, we cool it off with some nice authentic Bulgarian miak and some booger jokes. I miss the days when groups of kids and a simple garbage truck man could actually be in danger in a movie, not just from the adult they definitely should never have been hanging out with. It's a genre I feel like we don't do anymore. There aren't that many great horror movies to share with younger audiences. Ernest Scared Stupid fills that void. As a horror-loving parent, you want to share that love with your kids, but they shouldn't watch Hellraiser until at least the 2nd grade. Having a funny, quotable movie that instills the love of the genre in them without sending them to therapy is a treasure. Wow, if there's a how many times I say therapy drinking game, someone's dead. Someone just died.
You gotta wake up!
There are very few horror films as visually stunning as The Cell. Roger Ebert hated most horror movies, so the fact that he liked this one, I think should have been a good sign. He was a bit rude, but he got it right more often than not. The sets, the costumes, the makeup, it's a visual buffet. In whatever Vincent D'Onofrio did to prepare for this role, he could have won an Oscar. He is so amazingly terrifying in this film, and he essentially plays 3 different versions of the same character. It's one of my favorite performances ever. The Cell is about scientists who use technology to send a child psychologist into the mind of a comatose serial killer. What a perfect genesis for unrestrained creativity. As J-Lo journeys through the mind, FBI agents race against the clock in the real world to save the killer's possible next victim. I could float around in this movie all day long. The intestines twirling, the muscle mommy bodyguard, the splitting of the horse. This movie definitely makes the most out of the theater of the mind concept. Maybe people didn't like the real world invading the time we get in this killer's mind, but a cake can't be all frosting. If it was, I would still eat it as my insulin pump screams in despair, but that's not for everyone. I find the movie's more human elements to be what makes it more than a music video. Strager, sitting over his first victim in his dream world, talking to Catherine, sells the fact that serial killers are rarely the monsters we and this movie want to make them. They are just broken people, and that's even scarier. It is funny to watch The Cell now and imagine that J-Lo's invented a machine to run through Ben Affleck's mind. He's just like, oh God, mommy, the horse. That's a new riff I like to think about when I'm watching The Cell. So there you go. Forget about what Rotten Tomatoes says. Definitely give these movies a shot. They're way better than they're given credit for.